Okay, I have 5:30, and I'm not done signing these documents, so I will continue to sign. Are we recording?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So, welcome. This is the work session for the City of Minnetrista, March 7th, 2022, and our agenda is actually, 5 items this evening. First, we're going to start out with the introduction of our utility billing recycling, wow, that's a long title, coordinator Renee Newman, and also our building inspector Ryan Poole. Thank you for coming. We used to do this during a regular city council meeting, and I suggested that maybe we do it during a work session so that you guys could stay after work just a short time rather than having to go home and then come back. And we kind of do this just so that the council can put names and faces together, so when they call and talk to you, they know who they're talking to. I'll let you do an introduction, Ellie.
Sure, yeah. I'm going to be short and sweet here. So I'll start with Renee. Renee applied for the city's utility billing. Obviously the one on the left. She applied for the position in late 2021 and was hired in January 2022. Renee graduated with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Animal Industries Management from the University of Minnesota. She began her public sector career working at the U.S. Department of Agriculture as a program technician for over 10 years. In addition, she and her husband are the owner and operators of Newman Farms. Renee has caught on quickly and will have her first utility billing cycle in March here, so that'll be fun. And then Brian applied for the city's building inspector position again in late 2021 and was hired in January 2022. Brian has worked in the private sector as an HVAC installer for Sabre Plumbing and Heating for over 20 years. He was looking to advance his career and gain more knowledge in the building inspection process. Currently, as he started today, he's taking the necessary classes to obtain his building inspection certification, and we have high hopes he will be taking and passing his test soon. So that's that on those two.
Would you care to say anything or add anything?
Absolutely.
I told Renee she didn't have to.
She's like, no.
You don't have to.
I'd like to thank all of you very much for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it. This has actually been something that I wanted to do for quite a while. And then heating and cooling, I just thought that this was my next step and wanted to advance my career and gain a lot of knowledge, and you guys gave me that opportunity, and for that I'm very thankful. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Minnetrista is a great place. I like it.
Thank you.
No, it's been nice. It's a lot of training with Don, and it's been really pleasant working here, and it's nice to work on a more local level government than federal, and it's been a breath of fresh air. It's really quite good, and the office itself is good atmosphere and a lot of nice and well-received questions and answers and that kind of thing. So it's been really nice working here so far.
Good.
And I didn't write that for her.
I wrote Ryan.
Well, welcome, and we're glad to have both of you on board. So, hope you stay for a long time.
Very long. long time.
Good. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So you don't have to stay any longer if you don't want to, but you're welcome to.
Well, thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Nice to meet you.
So first, we're going to start out with our tiered water rate structure discussion.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, that is my item, and I'm sure there's probably a decent amount of questions or just different thoughts on how to best incorporate that or what our current rate structure, how we feel as far as that, but probably just highlight the memo a little bit and then open it up for questions as far as what council would like to see as far as any adjustments or modifications to our tiered water rate structure. So as far as I thought the history was good, and I did lay that out in the memo. Prior to 2010, the city did not even have any tiered water rate structure. It was pretty much just a base rate, and then everything was billed at, I think back in the day, it was like $2.99 or so. It was a long time ago. But
I can give you a little history on that.
Okay.
The DNR actually required the city of Minnetrista to put in the tiered rate, and if we hadn't done that, they probably wouldn't have given us permission for the water infrastructure needs that we had. So this was a requirement. In fact, I think now they require it by all municipals to have tiered rates.
Yeah. As far as the mayor, I think we were running into where we needed to do a new well, and they basically your rate structure wasn't acceptable based on their requirements.
Right.
So then at the time we did implement that in 2010, and our rates the tiers at the time were like quite large, or 0 to 80, 80 to 150, and 150,000 and above. And then in 2013, we did a water rate study with the help of Ellers, and we were able to also adjust our tiers down to the current tiers of the 0 to 25, 25 to 50, and 50,000 above per the quarterly gallons used per quarter. So what we tried to do as staff is look, because I think it's probably two-pronged. Obviously, it's encouraging conservation. Obviously, the DNR wants. I think we want that as council and staff. But also as far as planning ahead for our future infrastructure, and as far as making sure we have the revenue to do those. But we're also cognizant of making sure the rates are acceptable to our residents and our people that are on the water system. So then one of the main things we did, and Renee and Dawn had helped with that, was the looking at some of our neighbors and seeing what type of tiers some of our comparables have. So that was attached in the packet in sort of those slide format, and basically when we looked at it, I think as far as how our tiers are structured, I think we're sort of in the middle of the pack, if anything, maybe slightly on the lower end of revenue generation to some of our 10, 11 neighbors there. So I don't think we're at a point where we're it'd be a worse position to be in if we were already like at the top of the the number one in the area or something. So I don't think the council has to be nervous or worried about that. And then as well as even seeing what some of the tiers are like as far as the first tiers. Obviously we did some conversions from monthly to quarterly on the ones that apply, but a lot of them are 0 to 20, 0 to 24,000 for that first tier seems to be relatively common, 0 to 25. So I don't think our tier structure is too far off. Some of them have more tiers where they have 4 or 5 tiers versus just 3. So there's even some areas we could look at there if there's an appetite for that. So I don't know, and then I guess the other item I think that generated some questions was on page 9 of the packet, the water usage report. I thought that was good trend information to put in there, and I got this from Gary Peters. As far as when he does the DNR reports each year. So you can see, obviously, our water we're pumping and water we're selling had really ramped up the last couple of years. And in 2020, it really got up there. And then didn't have a chance to capture Gary exactly as far as, to me, obviously the numbers came down in 2021 because of we did have the watering restrictions and ultimately the watering ban in place that really brought the usage down, especially in the third quarter when you look at year over year, 2021 to 2020. And I think you can see our appropriation at the bottom of page 9 there. Obviously we're authorized to do $223 million. We did exceed that in 2020. And we were able to work with the DNR a little bit as far as saying it was planning on being a one-time thing, or 1 year now. I think we would have exceeded it in 2021 if we would have not put on the restrictions or bans. So,
Brian, can I jump in for just a moment?
Sure.
Just one thing that because I was going through the water usage numbers for the city as well, and I did touch base with Gary, and there are some anomalies, and I don't have the dates at my fingertips, but when the Sunnyfield Road water tower was being rehabilitated, they did have some increased discharge through that because they had to keep the water pressure in the system. So there was some waste with that. So that would be a little bit of a blip. And then certainly in December, when the new water tower was coming online and they had to go and really dechlorinate the tank, that was certainly a blip up in some of the water usage too. But just to give some context with some of those, some anomalies that came into play in some of the DNR numbers there.
Yeah. No, and that's good. Yeah, I think Councilmember Shumperlin and we had a little correspondence similar to those type of questions or comments as far as that. So that thanks for that clarification there.
Well, let's talk about the water tiered rates first before we get into some of the usage. I mean, unless you think we should.
Nope, I think so. I think I just wanted to sort of tie it in together. Obviously, we're trying to encourage conservation, and I think that the chart on page 9 helps show that really without some of the things that ended up being put in place in 2021, obviously, I think that trend would have kept going where we would have, we could have even got up to that 2020 number, maybe outside of those couple, anomalies that Allison talked about. But
what's well number 5? Where is that?
That's in the Saunders area.
Is it in the South Saunders? That's what well
That's the
5.
central system.
Okay, and well 3?
Well 3 is over off 44.
That's the 44 one. Okay, and well 4 is Lotus Drive.
Drive.
6 and 7 is Woodland, and then the other 2 are by the North Water Tower. Okay.
I have a quick question on Medina. Their tiers, it says 5 tiers plus irrigation. What is that plus irrigation?
I believe that's where they have, you can do the second meter and have it metered at an irrigation meter, I believe is the case for Medina. We can have what it's tracking the inside flow as well as then the outside flow track separately.
Is that a benefit?
Only if you want to know how much you're irrigating.
Yeah,
Well, don't they charge a different
well,
rate?
yeah, that'd be the main benefit. Yeah, is
They'll
if
do a
you.
different rate for water.
I wonder why they would do that.
Well, because we just charge a flat rate for our sewer charge, and it's more a lot of times if that inside.
Okay.
If that sewer rate can really pound if you're
Right.
or hit hard if you're charging it on a gallon
Gallon,
of space.
right.
But we have so we really don't need that because as far as the billing because we just charge the flat sewer rate per quarter.
I
That's the
get that. Yep. So they're not paying sewer charges for water that's being dumped on their lawn versus going down the drain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, like I think the mayor was saying, this is probably a good time. I guess in the memo I tried to outline. Obviously, there's a few different ways we could look at this as far as ways to adjust the tiers. You can change the. Obviously, you can make it in an additional tier. You can change the dollar amounts. You can really hit the higher levels or at a.
Well, if we look at this, most of them are, the first tier is somewhere between 0 and roughly 25 or 29,000, except for Watertown doesn't seem to be interested in conservation because that's 50,000, and then
they have the higher base rate.
and then anything over 50,000, they have a higher base rate, but still, and same with Victoria, they have 0 to 99, almost 100,000 at their first tier.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a Carver County thing.
I don't know.
But no, it's something that's. Yeah, I would almost throw a couple of them out as more
Right.
outliers or whatever, and look at the ones that are more, similar to us as far as any thoughts. I mean, I guess I didn't want to run too many different scenarios or
Panel
options.
is actually part of Medina, so I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that's why the rates should be the same, but I'm not sure why they're different.
Yeah, I know because they're basically an unincorporated part of Medina, right?
I think they are. I
But
think
they
they're
might
part
have,
of Medina.
depending on if it's a little different setup as far as how.
Yeah, it could be. Maybe they have their own system, and then when they were incorporated into Medina, they just retained their own system.
It could have been, yeah.
Yeah. All right, thoughts?
So I looked at it. I thought keeping the first tier of 0 to 25 was good, and then increasing the second tier up to 65, which plays into the 2.6 modifier. So take 25 times 2.6, that gets you the 65. So that would be the second tier, and then doing a tier of 65 and over for the third tier, because that'll hit the high usage people big time.
Okay.
And then for pricing, I just looked at, I like even numbers, so I did $450 for the 0 to 25, and then going up 2.6%. Or I don't know if I did the 2.6% for the money, but and then I did up to 6.25 for the second tier, and then 11.25 for the third tier.
Okay, so you basically would increase the second tier a little bit, but really hit obviously that third tier.
Yeah.
Which,
And I looked at our water usage for the last 2 years. And in winter, we generally fall in the 0 to 25. And then in the summer months, we fall between 40 and 62, I think, was the highest. So that'll hit the people that use water normal, I'll say. And we've got 5 of us, so it's a good size home. But we didn't go over the 65, I don't think at all, if I remember correctly. And I figured if we did something like that, you're going to hit the amount for the third tier goes up a lot, but you're also pulling down, 15,000. You're increasing the second tier by the 15,000, so they'll be charged less if you stay under that multiplier, which is what we want. We want them to use the multiplier. So if we keep the base at 0 to 25, then we use the multiplier to set the next ones. That was my thought.
I made a comment to Brian. I said, unfortunately, all 4 of us don't get water bills, so we don't see them. And so I said, Kathleen is the only one that gets the water bill. So
We went over 65 once in the last 2+ years, and that was March to June of 2020. So, I don't know.
I would agree with that type of process as far as our way of thinking, because I think the ones that are really peaking are the ones that you want to put that sort of a, you want to call it, what do you call it, not a surcharge or almost something to that effect, that and make it noticeable as far as that it's not just going to go from 4 to 5 to 6 the tier, as far as maybe it is 4 to 7 to 11 or something to that effect, that it's a big difference as far as dollar per or whatever. So
I like the method, whatever that is.
Good numbers.
Yes.
So,
I do like where the higher fees apply to the heavier users.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought it would be easier to explain also why the ranges were changing. We're using the multiplier the DNR wants us to use. If 2.6 is what we want, then here's that range. And then if you go over that, you're going to pay to go over that. So.
Good thinking. It gives the people that are the normal users a little bit of wiggle room, even above that 50 to 65. But the people, we know obviously, and Don's done utilities for a lot of years, the billing, that there's people that blow past 75, 100,000 a quarter pretty easy, right?
I was going to ask do you have any examples of bills in the summer months? I mean, are there? I know you gave the list.
That peaking factor.
Yeah,
or whatever.
You're talking dollar amount?
Yeah, I mean not dollar amount. Well, I guess, but more
Really
gallon
more the
amount.
usage.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think your average usage is up around 60 to 80, and then people over 100. I mean, there's a good portion that are using over 100 during the summer months. That July, August, September. And what you guys are doing, what Allie and Allison and everybody's doing, they don't even know anything about their irrigation system.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we'll have to let people know, that we're willing. I know Gary has said that our public works could go in and educate them. That's going to take some time, but hopefully if we get another public works person on board, that would help too. But I'm fine with so it'd be 25, 0 to 25 is the first tier, 2501, then 001 to 65,000 would be the second tier, and then 65,001 gallon would be the third tier.
And those numbers were, was it 450, 685, and 1125? Did I have those right?
I did 625.
Oh, 625, sorry.
11.
And I guess I just looked at some info. There are 130 residents using over that 65
Okay.
from last year.
So it wouldn't really affect too many people.
Yeah.
When you're thinking 1725 or 1724 are on city water. Mm-hmm. And then
That middle tier is capturing the most of it.
Yeah.
right.
That was during the ban, yes.
I would have
Correct.
Yeah,
in a normal year,
Yeah.
you're gonna have
Correct.
more than that.
I was gonna
Right.
say, this is just
Yeah.
quarter two. I'm both.
Oh, okay, okay.
And quarter two covers April, May, and June. So your big
Oh.
one is the
July, August,
Oh,
September,
oh,
yeah,
shit,
okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So even in quarter two, about 5 to 10%,
It's
we're
right
going
now.
over that highest tier. So yeah, for third quarter, I'm sure it was more like probably 20, 25. I mean, if I had to just in a
Yeah.
normal year.
And I would say
50.
2020 is probably a better full picture because we didn't have a watering ban. So
Right.
you're really seeing
Yeah.
the usage, I think, in 2020. That
Well, in
we didn't really
21, we didn't have a watering ban, did we?
Last
In
year.
20
Yeah,
last
that's
year.
true.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
the
Yeah.
year before we didn't.
Year before, 2020.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think you get a fuller picture
Okay.
in 2020.
Yeah, okay.
And this would go into effect this spring, right? Right away.
Yeah, we would if this is what the council wants to do, we'd bring this back as a fee schedule amendment, and it would go into effect before the second quarter of basically that June billing or whatever for April, May, June.
And then notifying people. I know Lisa just mentioned that, but
It would be in the campaign for sure. It'll
Yeah.
be in the newsletter,
Yeah.
website, anyone who signed up to any sort of email alert, Public Works or.
is there some way, being we know who uses more than the 65,000, sending a special letter out to
That's
them?
what we're, that's
Yeah,
part
Yeah,
of it.
that's the next item in your
Yeah.
agenda
Okay,
too.
okay.
Yeah, and I imagine we could do some sort of press release because that's where a lot of people are getting. Well, maybe not the Long City Water, but we could do a press release too. I would say all avenues we can communicate.
I mean, if we're sending snail mail to every single household,
That's a lot.
that should be, I mean, then they can't say, well, I don't have a computer, I didn't see it or whatever. Plus, if you do all of the other things as well, I think it would be, plus the newsletter, which is going to go out the end of March or approximately, and then plus the website, all of those things. I think that's good.
Yeah. I mean, people always say, I didn't hear about it.
I didn't hear,
But there's only so much,
Yeah.
so many avenues we can communicate on.
The only other thing that kind of, I was wondering, do we need to do another rate study with the new treatment plants and all of that coming on?
Yeah, I did notate that in the memo. I mean, our rate study is from 2013, and we do. That was one of the reasons more for the second half of this is why I attached like the water CIP and the budget again. Is just to show. I mean, obviously we've got millions of dollars worth of improvements scheduled. I mean, obviously the brunt of that would be a new water treatment plant,
Yeah.
the third one.
Right.
But it would be. From a purely selfish standpoint, it would be helpful for myself to have, an outside company look and see, is our rate adjustments enough? Are we going to have enough dollars, with bonding and incorporating all that stuff to do this? Not that all of a sudden the pendulum swings where we have enough cash and then we don't, or that we're planning for the incorporating the growth and plugging that in. So I would encourage that we would do that.
Do you
in the
remember
next-
what was paid for?
Back, I think in 2013, it was maybe at $5,000 or something, or so just to do the water. I don't think we need to look at,
I don't
obviously
think
sewer or any other
sewer were-
utilities.
yeah.
Because that's more easy to project when it's a
Right.
flat fee and stuff, and it's not the extent of the
Well, you don't have
infrastructure.
quite the infrastructure.
Yeah, either. So,
Yeah.
so
So is the study simply internal to say, we got X customers, our average over the last X years has been, the income is such, then you look at our CIP? Is that basically to say, do we have income to offset what we're going to spend?
yeah, and it basically some of these, like in whether it's an Ellers or somebody else or a Baker Tilly, they have people that do that stuff all the time. Versus I'm pretty much each year just looking at these documents and just internally making the best estimates. And we've been really increasing the rates, on a 4% a year, just knowing that, because that's what the study back in the day told. Well, now it's 8, 9, 10 years removed from the study. So,
Yeah.
and we've got other infrastructure improvements, sort of another wave of it almost coming. So it would just be probably helpful for myself to have a little help or a little outside look as far as, are we on the right track as a city to make sure we're matching up everything.
Well, we've had good numbers in the fund. I mean, we used $500,000 to bring the bonding down on
Yeah.
the new towers. So we've had the money there. I can see changing the tiers and the related cost as you become a big user. I mean, if the study doesn't cost next to nothing, I guess I don't have an issue with doing a study because it is umpteen years ago.
Right.
I don't know if
If
the
you
council
could-
want me to ask
I
around
would
a little
check
bit or
with
put it on a-
Ellers and whoever, I don't know if there's several that you can ask what they would charge, and maybe bring that back.
You get like 3 bids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Madam Mayor and Council, I think another advantage of taking a look at an outside firm is, well, there's two I can think of as Director Grimm mentioned, is that they have, with the variety of communities that they work in, there's certain nuances that, Minnetrista has that they might be able to draw from other studies that they've done. And I think another component too is for a resident that it's an outside agency looking at the number versus internally. And so there's that check and balance that can come with that
Right.
versus a staff member doing that.
And I do my best. But
I think you do a great job. I think I was involved in that previously, and I think it helps from a staff perspective if they, the message is delivered by another agency.
Doesn't it help as well when you go out for bonding? Isn't that something that
yeah, they'll ask, as far as have you looked at your rates and when your infrastructure and tie it all together, and ultimately that's sort of what a rate study is.
Right,
basically.
yeah.
So, yep. No,
I think too, we want to kind of know where we should be at, and because we're probably looking at, quite a bit in terms of bonding.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. When you're looking
6,
at
8 million maybe.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean,
So.
for wells and a
waste
treatment plant
plant.
and infrastructure, probably going to be 7, 8 million. Okay.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that our growth projections are going to be able to cover those extra costs too.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So yeah, probably the last. I know it came up. I think that's a question late last week. Is there any desire to do anything right now? And obviously, the school and the commercial, we don't have a lot of properties, but there's council fine with maybe doing the residential change first and then taking a look, or
I don't know how much. I mean, we have very few commercial,
Yeah.
and right now, I would hate to hit commercial. You know what I'm saying? I'd hate to saddle them with more expenses right now, just coming out of COVID and still lingering. And school.
So pretty much, it's mainly obviously the West Tonka properties.
Yeah, that would be the biggest, but I don't know that you can differentiate between school and commercial, or
And we've mainly looked at just same with school and commercial. We set the tiers at where we think they're gonna, maybe get into that second tier, but hopefully not the third. So that's where obviously the school has all the irrigation of the. I mean, they have their fields and their complex where they're gonna need to use a lot more water than any residential property by far. So
We know how much the school used.
Yeah, it was in
Quarter 2 is about 1.5. So is this
for all the properties, probably, or for the.
those two combined?
Okay. Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
what
there
it's
are-
looking like? Here's another one.
they have 5 properties.
Yeah.
We're trying to
But I can't imagine that they irrigate
definitely over
the football
Yeah.
field.
I mean, they're
2.5
definitely.
Irrigate the football
now.
field?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely
I bet
getting
they
into the
do.
second,
Do?
third
Really?
tiers
I'm
with
sure.
needing to
It's
keep their
used for
fields in
soccer.
playable conditions and stuff.
I would
and
guess.
Well, they have the soccer fields.
Yeah.
Those I
So
can-
when would you know if you actually had to go to the school or these other large players? Like in another half year, in a year? When would you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously that could be a subsequent discussion, maybe a little more analysis as far as But I think right now, to me, obviously the vast majority of trying to get conservation is our residential usage is by far obviously our biggest percentage of our water, the pie or whatever. So to me, that could maybe be a secondary discussion
Right,
at some
exactly.
point. So.
That's what I'm thinking.
Would the water rate study be able to identify, those commercial and school?
That could be something that could be a tool too to basically say how does our overall rate, not just the residential, but there is a portion of it that the revenue generated by the school and commercial. So yeah, that could be part of that. That's a good idea.
Do we know what Mound charges the schools?
Oh, we could find out pretty easily, I guess. Yeah, I think I didn't have staff look at
Yeah.
that, but yeah, we could
Yeah,
look
just for
and see.
future, if we bring it back, then that way we can go, okay, well, now I'm just charging them this. What are we
Yeah.
charging in comparison? Because
My guess is it's at least somewhat similar, or probably Mr. Borg or someone would have raised. I mean, maybe not, or whatever. But
Well, they're,
Superintendent Borg.
they would know at the school district
Yeah, yeah.
because they would have to pay. I mean, it's
Yeah,
one
yeah.
school district, so they would have to pay that.
Yeah.
You could probably just call them and ask, or call
Oh,
the
yeah.
city of Mound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
One other thing, this is semi-related. So when we had our meeting with the DNR, they were recommending that we do a monthly billing. That would really cost the city quite a bit of money when you think about that every month they have the time and then mailing that out and all that. But then they also mentioned that Shoreview, not Shorewood, but Shoreview has an app or something where people can go online and find out what their either daily or monthly usage is. And so I'd like to kind of look into that and see if we couldn't have something like that in lieu of a monthly billing.
That'd be great.
Monthly billing, I just
That's a
think.
great idea.
why do we need that? I mean, if I want to know what I'm using, I can just read it on my water meter.
Probably would just be for ease if someone
For
could do it on
ease.
an app or whatever
Yeah.
versus going to their base.
And then they would know
Yeah,
how
but
much it's costing or what the bill would be or whatever.
I can guarantee you, even if you have that, they're still going to look at their bill and complain. I mean, I've got a neighbor who's like, "Oh my god, our water bill's so much." I'm like, "You run your sprinkler every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to be like."
Yeah.
So that's a separate app that the homeowner sets up. Is the
I don't
city
know. I
involved?
don't.
They
I mean,
mentioned
it
they-
has
the
to be
public
with the
works would
city.
have to go out and read meters then once a month,
Yeah.
minimum.
No, this was hopefully something that they could do on
their own.
We wouldn't
Yeah.
want to incur extra staff time or burden or
That's
whatever.
Right.
That's where my mind was going.
Yeah.
That would be a
And I know a resident in Hunter's Crest had said it would be nice if there was some kind of app that you could go to. So I don't know if he knew of this or not. But if you recall at the meeting that we had with the DNR, they were not sure if they were highly recommending or saying we had to, but they were saying, you really should think about going to a monthly billing. And we're like, ooh.
I
Did
think
they
we
say
could
why?
send
Just so people know what they're using. per
Right.
month?
That's
That's what they think.
I think we
Real
could
time
send
or more data.
high usage notification
Well, yeah, just supplement.
Yeah.
every month and just say, hey, you're way over the peak factor, kind of like we're sending here, but May, June, July, and August.
Yeah, again, then it's monitoring.
But then
And-
the
yeah.
reports already ran at that time. Don would just run a report, and then I would send to the people on the report. That's a
Oh,
little
you're
bit
saying
easier
it would be sent out with their bill or at the same time?
at the same time.
Okay, so on a quarterly basis still.
Well, during the month we could do it. Well, yeah, I don't know.
See, otherwise you'd have to read the meters every month.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't
And
know.
sometimes the DNR can make suggestions, but at some point there's got to be cost, effectiveness. And we're doing a lot of these other things in lieu of, there's other cities. Obviously, we showed in the report. There's still other cities that are
Right.
billing quarterly. I think Mounds billing bills quarterly. and
Well,
stuff.
let's just find out about the app. I
Yeah.
think that's a cool idea, just to find out about it.
We don't have to
do
implement it, but
Yeah.
at
You
least
just look into it.
Do you know who has it?
That's what I think. You guys,
Oh,
that's the Prairie thing.
Oh, that's it.
Oh,
That's
you
what
can
I was saying.
HydroCorp. It's a new meter. You're gonna have to put a whole new meter in,
Which we are looking at.
and it's actually then you don't have to read them. I mean, there's a software that comes with it that automatically then updates the city. The city can at any time log in and see what your meter is. And similarly, you can download the app, you set up your account, and you can look at it real time. As we already know, we already brought up the discussion about new meters and what it costs to do that. So I mean, I can't imagine that it's
Yeah.
it'll be an expensive endeavor
Yeah.
to do.
So with new meters,
Right.
when we replace some of these other ones that we're going to be talking about at a subsequent meeting, that would be the time to.
We would have to find out what the cost of those
Yeah.
those type of meters
versus
are
the-
versus the standard
Sure.
ones that we put in. But if I don't know if they're $200, I don't know how much they
Yeah.
are, but let's just say they were $200 and somebody said, no, I'd really like that. They want to pay the
Oh,
$200
that's
bucks. We could put it in for them. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think we should just research it, just find out.
Okay.
So, all right, that's all I had on that.
All right. Well, then, so I think that sounds good on the water tier. So You can probably
And
turn it over. I guess Allie has the next item, right?
Yeah, sorry. My next two kind of go along with this. So when we kind of kicked off this campaign, there was talk about sending a high usage notification. So Allison and I worked on a letter to send to the top 50 residents, and not water users, but they have the highest peak factor in 2021. And then while we're here, I thought it was a good idea to also ask for another 50 in April and then 50 in May. So there will be 150 total letters sent. And this would be done in-house, so postage would just be the cost of that.
but why send 50 now and 50? You know, why divide it up? Why not send them all out? I
I
mean,
think we want to take kind of a response, see how it goes, but I guess we
Oh.
can send it all out at once.
Yeah, to echo what Allie was just saying, I think the idea was to see if there was feedback on the tone. I mean, you certainly want to try to get the right tone on these letters.
Right.
But if you're hearing some negative things from residents rather than
If I get 50 calls.
sparking ire of
150
150.
households are going to show up.
yeah. Okay, so we only want 50 at a time.
How many chairs we have, right?
If I'm fielding 30 calls, I don't know if that's sending the right message. So
Yeah.
Well, there's
and I can, but I don't know.
couple things I'll make a comment. The letter is too much wording, because if somebody gets a letter like this, I kind of wonder if they're going to read it all. And then I also don't like that last paragraph. What is the city doing? Why, we're trying to make people conserve water. So I just think it needs to be less words so people will actually read it.
So if we just delete that last.
Well, no, I think
Paragraph.
just, I think the first paragraph should say the city needs to, I think we need to explain in the first paragraph why this letter is going out. It's going out because we have to conserve our water usage. And we have to do that because this is a requirement by the DNR. I mean, I don't know what you want to say, but this is why we're doing it. You're receiving this letter because you're one of our highest users in the community. And we're trying, so, I mean, I would be pretty direct. Yeah.
And I bring in the DNR stat, which you did in the first of the. No, you did. The 226 is not that. I bring the DNR into the whole letter very fast.
Yeah.
It's in the first.
It's in the first
It's the last sentence in that first paragraph. So
Yeah, that's the 2.6.
Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't there some factor that you wanted to? Strategy, some usage. Yeah, that is.
I think it can just be less words, condensed. This is what the city needs. We need to use less water. You've been identified as using a lot of water. Here's why you need to stop. Just very short, sweet to the point. Because I'm not gonna lie, if that came in my thing, I'd be like, nope.
I know, that's what I would do, yeah.
we were erring on the side of
Yeah.
Maybe like a half page or
encouraging.
something.
Yeah.
But okay,
Short, concise, to the
Couple few
point.
paragraphs.
we can shorten it up.
Yeah, I think we can make the DNR responsible. We have to do this because we are required by the DNR. I don't know, because I mean, we should do it no matter if the DNR requires us or not, but still, maybe and I wouldn't even say per the Department of Natural Resources goals and allocations. I would just say per their allocations.
And directives or something.
Well, it's the I'd have to take a look back at how they phrase it.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know that it's a hard and fast requirement, but that's the goal that they like to see the city achieve. And as we heard in the meeting with the DNR, they want to see what the city's doing
Right.
to reduce usage with that as a goal. So that's why we use the word goal.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. But I think
It's noted.
That's
Yeah,
word.
we'll shorten it up. And,
part of it.
Yeah, I mean, the background paragraph, you can probably just do, lawn, irrigation, and other outdoor watering are primary reasons, excessive use. I mean, you can cut out probably those first two sentences. Everybody knows about the watering ban. We don't need to keep bringing that back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everyone getting this letter is well aware of it.
Right.
So would that be something that
Do you guys want to see this again?
Do you wanna
or
see
Why
we
don't you
have
put it together and send it out to the council, and the council can individually give you a call or respond to you individually. And then another question, so you want to send out 150? Is that, maybe, do you want to send out 75 and then 75?
Sure.
So you just have 2 that you have to send out? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all the same work for me, so
Yeah,
it's kind of,
okay.
yeah, okay.
You know, and I think one of the challenges too with this letter is there are going to be the nuances, the people that have 2 college kids coming home for the winter, and so of course their usage is going to double. But I think that's in this community probably the anomaly, not the norm.
Right.
So we'll have to expect some of those phone calls to come in.
Well, I want to know what the guy at Palmer Point is using, I mean, like unbelievable amounts. Yeah. So, all right.
Okay, and then also tied to this is scheduling the open house or open forum for residents to come in and ask the council questions. With that, if we wanted to ask any experts such as Greg Johnson or someone from the DNR to be present, we'd kind of have to coordinate with their schedules as well. So I laid out a few dates. The mayor did call me and mention she would prefer it earlier. That is up to the council to schedule it.
This was my comments to Ally. As we get further into May, there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, there's the recycle day, there's the Trista day, there's end of school colleges, there's graduations and so on, and a lot of weddings in May. So I was really reluctant. And then also, so my suggestion would be either like maybe the 19th of April or the 3rd of May. But once you get into further into May, I just think we're not going to get that much response.
How about the 25th, 26th that week? That's an in-between week for you. Because the 19th would be right after a council meeting, which is fine, but.
When does Jasper start?
He starts the 11th.
11th.
So he will be here. He will be on board the 11th.
He'd get to be part of it.
Yeah, we'll just have him answer questions.
Well, and I'm not sure that he needs to be necessarily, I mean, obviously he would be there, but I would assume we'd have our engineers and our DNR people, those kind of people doing some kind of a presentation and answering questions.
I strongly feel the DNR should be here.
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah.
Strongly feel.
Yeah.
So we need to try to coordinate it. I also would like our 150 letters to go out prior to this,
Mm-hmm.
because that may generate some interest.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So-
I can send those letters. I would just need to know the date
Okay.
that you guys choose.
Okay, so then, doing what John wants to do, are we going to contact the DNR and have them here?
We will, let's
I
pick
think
a
we'll
couple
make that
dates
Yeah,
that work and then say, here's a couple dates that work. Would one of these work for you? So my two preferences are, and you guys can weigh in, would be the 19th of April or the 3rd of May.
I'd go with the 19th of April, but I can go with either one.
I think I'm okay with either else.
Either.
Yep, fine.
So present both those to the DNR then, right?
Yeah,
So
and
that could
see
make-
what-
might help pick it.
And that might help pick the date, right. And I don't know who would be, do you know, Allison, who would be coming from the DNR?
Well, we could certainly ask. I think there were a
There were
couple
like-
folks. The gentleman that kind of ran the meeting, I think he was well spoken.
Yeah.
Certainly Jason would be a good candidate, but I don't know if that's something that's in his.
I would
purview.
want to make sure that whoever comes is well spoken.
Yes.
I can imagine that.
I
there
mean,
might
the
be
maps were
some-
great.
Yeah.
But he was. There was a very technical person on
Is
the
that
call.
the 50 slide PowerPoint? or
Yeah,
not?
I really like that PowerPoint,
Yeah,
but I
it's a
can
little
see how
long.
that might lose some people.
Go on.
We can certainly ask around too. We have a lot of folks at WSB that work with the DNR, and there might be somebody because I think the people we were speaking to are more on the technical side.
Yeah.
And there's probably a lot of really good outreach people at the DNR that would have the resources and the abilities to attend the meeting.
Yeah, because I don't know that you want an engineer from the DNR making a presentation, if you know.
So I guess that's another question I would have. Is this the DNR presenting? And they're asking questions. Do you want staff to create a PowerPoint? You know, what are your goals for this? You know, is DNR just here to kind of answer questions?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so staff would be the ones creating a PowerPoint.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I
And
think
just like
so.
you to run that PowerPoint past the DNR so there are no surprises to the DNR.
Right.
That's a good point. Yeah.
The average citizen, I'm sure, has no clue that a lot of what is driving our policies is outside of our jurisdiction.
Right.
They just think, well, the city's arbitrarily doing something.
I did,
So,
and it was a shock to me when I found out who it was.
I mean, I just think, you know, do people know that we have an allocation? I mean, or do they just
No.
think we can pump,
No.
pump, pump, pump?
I don't
and,
think so.
And I don't think
No.
people know that. That's, I think, really an important part. I don't think that people know the peaking factor of 2.6, that that's a goal set by the DNR. And they don't even realize that we are at 3.3. I mean, that's a huge amount more, you know. So I think if they start to see and realize, and I think people just think that these aquifers are just, they'll just keep, you know, they're infinite. And I think we need to make it clear that we're drawing down these aquifers faster than they're being recharged. And so we need to be careful, because what happens when they're no longer available? So,
And with that, how extensive do you want this invitation to go out? I mean, I kept a list of people who complained last year.
can't
Are-
we send it out to the 1724 people
To
that
the
are
what?
on
All water users.
1,724 water users?
Like a mailing?
Yeah.
Yes, but I would outsource that.
Okay.
And we can put it in the next two campaigns, because we'll have the well, that'll be in a weird time once we get it scheduled. Because we're working on the
Yeah,
March
it hits the
campaign
gap.
right now. And then the April campaign won't be out by then.
Right. Okay, so we don't know if we can find out from the DNR between, when are you sending out the March campaign?
At the end of the month. I get a draft to Allison at the beginning. The mailers need about a week, so.
Just a reminder too, the reason that meeting was virtual is because the DNR is not meeting in person. Just remember that.
Oh.
Just
Yeah,
Just saying.
yeah, right. Well, they
I don't
might
know if it changed.
They might send somebody, a lower person.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well,
Wish-
it
wishful.
doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, Yeah.
And that was a very good point.
yeah, that's,
They may not come.
Yeah.
and That's the way it goes, and then we'll just have to be ready.
Mhm. And it is
But-
the council's forum too. You know, this is for you guys
Right.
to.
It's
Right.
fine, but it would be nice, it would be nice to have. If we can, we will. If we can't,
Okay.
Good.
So do you want me to do a separate mailing to all water
No.
users, or
No.
that probably
Really?
costs
You think?
about?
yes.
I'd say that's probably about $500, I would say.
Not fun. It's an important issue.
I'd also get it to the, I'm assuming you have the contacts for most of the HOAs.
Mm-hmm.
So get it to the HOA contacts, and then they'll email it out to everyone in the subdivisions.
That's a good idea.
And it'll obviously be in the newsletters. I mean, people should hear about this for sure.
yeah, I mean, just the postage alone, and you'd have to go first class is $950 for 1,724 users.
We get a discount.
Okay.
So,
Well, if you do bulk rate, then it's not going to be first
well, our
class. mail.
mailers, for example, I think are around 700. I want to say our campaign mailers.
Okay.
Whoever's not in the HOAs should get mailed, because I'm thinking about how I would open something. I would open mail, but the odds of reaching me just would have been nil. You wouldn't have reached me.
If you,
Prior to being on the council, if
what
you
if it's a
tried-
postcard? I'm thinking
Yes.
postcard.
Which is fine.
Then they don't have to open it,
Right. That's exactly right. That's the only way you would have reached me
and it has to be
prior.
colorful so that they see it.
Again, that all costs, so just keep that in mind. Having a card stock is, you know, for almost 2,000.
I'm saying just the people who are not in HOAs, so there can't be that many of them.
Do you know which ones though are not? Geez, that
We
would be
got
hard.
Harper's Crest and we got Woodland Cove. Anybody else whose address is not, does Palmer Point have an HOA?
Yeah.
Oh, they do. Well, then they might not have many at all.
Well, there's Trillium, they have an HOA. There's Hermitage, they have an HOA. I mean, but then we don't know how many of them are active. Hermitage Shores HOA is not active, but they have an HOA.
So you're saying you send it to the HOA and it's on the HOA to communicate with their residents? It would be cheaper. I don't know if that gets the word out as best.
Works in my neighborhood great.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you could probably cut out mailing to all of Woodland Cove. We just send it to Heidi and she gets everything
Yeah.
distributed, and then people get it and then they post it on the Facebook page anyway. So between the two, everyone gets it for the most part.
Is there a way to differentiate, Dawn? Do you know?
HOAs.
Yeah, to pull a report, or are we just gonna have to pick one by one?
Well, HOAs, some of them are active, some of them are not. Some
See.
of your older, your northern part of the city,
Right.
they don't have active HOAs
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah, Woodland Cove, more recent developments, but
Like Hunter's
And
Crest
there's no way
does.
to kind of separate.
Other than by address, and you'd
Yeah.
have to know all of the, I mean, I could go through the
Yeah.
list and tell you, but.
Well,
you
if
know.
we know that Woodland Coves, Hunter Crest, Turtle Creek, and Palmer's Point, just those four associations in themselves takes the number way down.
That's true. So as long as we even
So-
just get it out to them, you know.
Yeah.
And that's not even saying.
I think we're just trying to capture the vast majority.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
I'm trying to reach
Yeah.
everyone, but it's not probably going to be feasible. You know.
Right. Well, we'll do the best we can in the cheapest way possible.
Yeah, I went through the names on all 12 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Just checking now in Illinois.
Those are only 500 of them.
Oh,
There's almost 2,000.
nice.
1724.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
What is the anticipated participation that the council thinks if we're inviting all water users?
Yeah, that's.
Well,
Yeah, we're going to be over
'Cause we're-
capacity. Are you thinking?
Well, I'm
No,
just
I
wondering
don't think
how
so.
we accommodate if we're going to have a good turnout, which we hope we do. You know, we talked about the police training room.
I would be surprised if you get 50.
Okay.
We could just-
Yeah, I'm going to say 3 to 7%. I'm going to quote the standard mailing.
The
Okay.
standard mailing is, or response is
Yeah.
2%.
2%? Okay.
I think 2%, which would be, if you multiply it by 2, so let's just say husband and wife or spouse or significant other come, even at that, you're looking at maybe 60.
Yeah.
And if we have this date, obviously, hopefully before I send the other mailing out, I
Right.
can put that on the bottom too. So I think we're capturing a lot in the
Right.
newsletter, in this letter, and in the HOAs. I think that's going to be the bulk of people too.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
In the 150 letters we're mailing to the big users, would we have this info in there added? If we know the
I think we
dates?
should be able to get it. I'll just hold off on mailing it until we have a date from the DNR. I would think that makes sense.
No, he's talking about a letter that we're mailing out to the high users.
Right, so if we
150.
picked a date for an open house, could that be included in the letter?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'd probably
Oh.
wait until the
Okay.
date's solid and then send out the letter with the date on it.
Okay. So, Allison, can you check with the DNR, check with your people to see who at the DNR we should be asking?
Certainly.
And then check with them right away. And if, like David said, which might be the case, they're not meeting in person yet, they might say no.
And is the 5 to 6:30 okay?
I was going to ask you, is that, do you think 5 is too early?
I think it's too early.
Too
I think
early?
it'll decrease how many people show up.
Yeah.
Probably like 6 to 7:30 or something.
So, do you think
More like 6
is 6 better?
6 or 6:30.
I'd say 6:30.
6:30? Okay, 6:30 to 8?
Yeah.
7:38?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it is an open house, right? So
Yeah.
there'd be like a.
I think you'd have some sort of
presentation.
PowerPoint, maybe either
Yeah.
10, 15 minutes in, give people a chance to get
Right.
or give a presentation, and then
Right.
sort of open it up or something. Or
Yeah, I think, like, if it starts at 6:30, maybe you do the presentation at 6:45, and then, and we should list that on the
I
Yeah.
would.
on the thing, say open house. I wonder if you want to call it open house. Here's a question:
Open forum?
how about town hall meeting? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I like that too because, and again, if you actually, you want people to arrive relatively on time.
Right,
Open house means you can show up anytime.
anytime.
Hmm.
And you don't want them to miss the presentation. So I
Right.
like the town hall meeting idea.
Let's say town
Yeah.
hall meeting.
Okay.
and like Allison pointed out, just in case, do we have more chairs in the,
We have not so comfy ones.
no, I'm saying if we met in the police, training room.
Yeah, there's capacity over there is bigger. You know, I don't. We'd maybe
More
have to
of a
bring some chairs
classroom
over. Or
style.
Right.
You
Would
guys
that-
would be kind of equal with,
Well, that would be fine.
if that's fine.
Yeah, that would be fine. I think we should plan on meeting over there.
I think so, too.
Because it's a larger room. And the setup for a presentation, I think, is a little bit better.
I guess with that, we're happy to draft a presentation if Mike was still here, I think he would be the one to give it. Is that-
I'll be happy to.
Okay.
Okay.
The mayor or
Yeah.
engineer, certainly I don't want to do it, but.
I think what we'll do is we'll do a combo because I
Yeah.
think I can do an introduction and I can kind of, walk through a few things and then I can hand it over to an engineer because there's obviously going to be things, the infrastructure, for instance, that you might want to talk about, and we can work on that, and we'll do the PowerPoint and then run it by the council. 'Cause-
Well, and Allison's not just any engineer, she's an engineer people person. So she could certainly chip in, yes?
Yes, absolutely, and I think that there's a component of it where when you can get it to my understanding, then I might be able to deliver it better than an expert on the system because then you tend to get a little too technical,
Right.
maybe.
Right, yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
So I think, and then the other, we were talking about somebody from the university that knows about lawn care and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have any connections to Care 11, Bobby Jensen? He's their garden guru. And quite honestly, it'd be cool if we had him come and talk about lawn care.
That's fine, you can always make a connection. I'll give it a shot.
Okay, otherwise
I don't have the connection, but I'll try to give it a shot.
well,
They have
the
something.
only connection I have is through freshwater, and I used to, let me give it a shot.
I'll give it a shot.
And then if I,
Yeah, then I'll give it a shot.
but if you know of anybody,
Well, I'll ask her in.
yeah, let me know. Because I thought it would also be a draw.
Yeah,
Plus, it's coming from an expert that knows about garden stuff. And he could say, this is what you need to do. And I don't know. It's
Well, making
I'll see.
local news,
right.
that's what you have in mind.
Right. Well,
Another way of coverage.
yeah.
I was going to say, I think our one local resident used to work for Care 11, but I don't think
He was
does
the,
anymore.
what's, Eric, no.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Yes.
He's up into North End.
Yeah, but he is no longer at
There,
Care.
no.
And he was
Yes.
sports.
yes.
Yeah.
Eric Perkins?
Yeah.
Perkins, thank you. Eric Perkins. Play with Perkins at
Perk
play.
at play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Well, why don't we,
But I've met Laura, who's one of their weather people. I can ask her. She knows Bobby Jensen. Okay. All right.
and then, should we bring maybe that, work session prior, either on the 4th, on the 18th, give you guys a look at the PowerPoint,
Mhm. Yeah.
if that works for you, Allison? I'm guessing it'll be you heavy.
Just because I think it'd be good if the council has some additional thoughts or input.
Well, let's plan for the 4th, so then we have time to edit if we need.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Again, I'm a member of the Arboretum, I would do it.
Oh yeah, the arboretum.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be good too.
Good one. If you want to, you know what? Can you contact them first? And if
Yeah.
you don't come up with anything, let me know, and then I'll try
All right, no problem.
Care
I
11.
can do it.
All right. All right. ARPA funds. Okay. Are we good there?
Yeah.
All right. ARPA funds.
Yes, that one is mine, and yeah. So I guess I'll just summarize the memo and some of the new developments. So we, or maybe give just a little review. So we did receive our $444,000 roughly last year, and we're scheduled to receive that another $444,000 in 2022 here, I think in spring summer.
We received the extra. That includes the extra.
Yeah.
That 30.
Yeah, it was like
Okay.
430,000 first, and then
Yeah.
another 14,000. They did that additional distribution. So
Yeah. Okay.
for the 444, and then we should be getting that same amount in 2022 based
Okay.
on that adjusted amount. So we've done some initial allocations as far as related to more the broadband and the Midco project to allocate. Actually, we had done some initial projections back in 2021, and then I think when the broadband proposal came together, we upped our proposal of ARPA funds to $255,000, use $145,000 up to a cable fund balance, and one of the reasons there was to not have to go through a business subsidies program, which could have been pretty time consuming and onerous or whatever you call it. So that's where I guess we've done some initial allocation there. One of the items obviously we're still working on is a potential I guess reimbursement or whatever you want to call it, dollars back from the county on the broadband project of up to $200,000. So that can obviously play a part. Would you net that back against the ARPA funds, and then really would be spending net $55,000 in ARPA funds, which then would allow us about $830,000 left over to either allocate towards water uses like the wells or water treatment plant. One of the things I at least wanted to make the council aware of is that for I think probably a lot for cities that do not have a way to eligible projects such as broadband and water like we have, they've basically, with this final rule that came out that I attached more of a summary in the packet, they are allowing a $10 million I guess general exemption for lost revenue, public sector revenue services, where you can apply it to that if you want. So a lot of this just comes down to how the council wants the city to report this when we get around to reporting. And our first reporting deadline is coming up April 30th of this year, which isn't really a hard and fast deadline, because I think from the way I understand, we can report like a $0 amount in capital. It'll be an annual report after that every April. So once it seems like we still have some moving parts as far as obviously what's going to happen with the broadband project, our wells. Ultimately, at some point, we could even just do that exemption, which obviously would be for ease of administration and accounting, but would that be as transparent as far as allocating it to a specific project? Ultimately, it works. And
well, let's start. Let's step back here. Let's start with the first on page 19.
Okay.
Right. And you're talking about $488,217 for allocating that towards water supply, which is 55% of our residents. And then 466, I think it's 495. No.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, this was a spreadsheet. I think
right.
The original calculation was done back in 2021.
So, anyhow, if you take 495, it's approximately I think it's 15.7%. So round it up to 16%. Now that would then leave about 29% of of people that are not in either category. Okay, so the 920 then of properties are not on city water or are not getting benefit from the broadband, which is 29%. So, and then the other thing I was confused on, because you have here 131,812 for broadband. I thought we were going to take 145 out and then 55 out of ARP dollars, and then 200 is coming from the county. So just the question why we have 131 in here.
If you go down to the bottom of page 19, there's the revised. That was sort of the original projection, and then based on what the broadband discussions, basically we'd allocate the 255, for ARPA, and then the 145 out of the cable fund, knowing now that it's the $400,000 up to contribution. So yeah, the original was to sort of, I think we were talking about it, in late 2021 is, what's the best way to try to allocate it towards eligible projects, and that was our initial stab at it. And then based on what we know with the Midco proposal, the last bottom section there is sort of where we're, I guess, preliminary from my perspective, sitting right now based on updated information.
So we have 888,464 ARPA dollars. We take away 55,000 from the ARPA funds for broadband.
As long as we get the 200,000 back from the county,
right?
And once that's until everything's signed and done, right? I guess. Yeah. So that's where right now it's saying 255, and then whatever we get back from the county could net against that.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So I have a question while we're in this. What's the reporting required? So at the end of April, we tell them we've spent zero. But do they ask what you're projecting to spend on, or is it simply I've spent nothing, report sent in.
And for the CARES funds, that's how simple it was, because we had like a month of reporting until we finally got around to our final allocation of, we allocated a decent, amount to public safety, reimbursement of payroll, or I was just doing zeros. This is going to be a less frequent report. It's going to be like April of 22, then April of 2023. But like the timeline in the memo, you don't have to have it expended or encumbered basically till 2024 and expended till 2026. I've even asked the league. I think everyone sort of knew at this, so I've asked like Metro Cities and League Minnesota City. So if we've really entered into a contract but haven't spent any dollars yet, should we really be reporting anything? And I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Basically what the mayor's saying, and no one really knows, because a lot of the cities under 50,000 haven't reported yet. I have a friend of mine in another city that was over the 50,000, and he said they just used that $10 million general exception, and just for reporting, they just, whatever their dollar amount was, say they got 7 million, they just were done with it, and then but it depends on how
Well, I think,
how you want to do it, I guess.
but you could, and so what my concern would be, I don't want to say we're going to spend 200,000 or 131,000, whatever it is, for broadband, because then if we don't spend it on broadband, then we have to redo stuff. So I'd rather go in low, saying 55,000 for broadband, because that's kind of what we're thinking right now, because we're going to use 145 from cable fund, 55 from ARPA dollars, and hoping to get 200 from this county. Now, if that changes, and later on we say, oh, well, now we're going to spend 155,000 rather than just 55, I think we'd be okay.
Yeah, so I guess what I want to just verify with them.
I say just say zero right now and change it as
Okay.
as we spend it, because we haven't spent
Especially
anything.
in a whole year.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that might be the safest way, is just to file a zero report. I mean, technically, I guess we sort of have 55,000 in broadband sort of allocated, but it's not set, and it's probably more in pencil versus pen, because it could change a little bit. So maybe, I guess what I'm hearing the council say is we just maybe do the zero report from now. We'll have a lot more figured out by April of 2023.
Yeah.
Does that
Okay.
sound like
Okay.
We'll be further along in the water process, and I think you can always, even at the end, if you have to, just say, take some in that exempt that, obviously when you.
I mean, I think we said early on that we would definitely use at minimum 50% for the water infrastructure. And then what I would like to see is, I'd like to see where we are with expenses for the water infrastructure so far. So we've already done, engineering expenses, one test well, we're going out for another one. I'd like to see that kind of
Like recap where we're at so far.
running
Okay.
total, so we know where we're at with that.
Okay. Yeah. that can be seen.
And we cannot use any of that money for roads, right?
Well, we sort of
We
can.
could, basically, if you take that exemption, you can sort of you could basically take the money in and then transfer it to the roads fund or something. I guess the question is there a larger demand, or do you want to do 50% to water? Do you want to do a higher amount? And that's some of the things I guess the council will have to decide.
Well, that's why I was saying, if everybody in the community is going to benefit, let's just say, from these ARPA dollars, we said water users will benefit, and they're 55% of our population, so they get 55% of the, and then we're saying 495 homes are benefiting, so that's 15 or 16%. That leaves the 29%, and I'm saying if we put 29% into roads, that's kind of everybody.
Yeah. Can I add one more thing? This may be out there, but we talked about the gun range. Is that something we could use money towards?
Well, I
Saying
don't.
it's public safety.
I'd be hesitant to put these dollars into that because we're still waiting on the crime fund. They had said that they were going to fundraise for that. So, but
Can we use it for some of the maintenance and the... I'm just saying, the 29% speaks highly to me, Lisa. Because there's, like you said, they're not water, they're not broadband. Almost 30%
And I think,
of people.
yeah, with this final rule that came out in January of this year, just a month or two ago, I think basically through that 10 million revenue loss standard allowance, I think you could take that, bring it in, and put it in the general fund, and then use it, distribute it from there as wanted. If that's what the council wants to, let's do a percentage allocation, 29% or whatever. I guess the question is going to be: is it better to just allocate it to water and then use our general fund and our roads levy to do roads, or is it better to take a part? I mean, some of it's obviously just the overall budget picture for the year and capital improvement plan and how you want to do it. But I think there is some flexibility.
Okay. And I like the road idea. The one thing about the road is, so you're working on a road, which again, you're identifying a certain group of people. So everybody benefits from better police training and all of that. So just a suggestion.
I think you're going to run into more controversy with that.
That could be.
And I think we need to know how much we're going to end up spending on broadband, because that'll change how much is left over to do roads or something else with it.
Right.
Just putting it on the water. So
So if you put in 0 for April, when do we have to address it again?
next April.
April of 2023 would be our.
And that's
And we'll know the broadband by then.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be done this year. so-
It'll be done
Supposed to be.
if we get money from the county. Which we'll
Yeah.
have it.
Yeah.
Some of that will, I guess, finalize this because, it really our contribution is up to 400,000 if their project comes in better. So a lot of that we'll probably know by
it's
next
15.5%
late fall,
of
winter, and then we can actually report actual numbers versus just encumbered numbers, which can then, I think someone had brought up, and then you're filing an amended report or something anyway.
Okay, so I just didn't know if we had to, so if we can file 0 now,
Okay.
and if we have to file an encumbered number or encumbered numbers, then
55,000.
I would put in 55 for now. I mean,
Okay.
and then like you have in here, the 55% for water.
Oh, sure. If we wanted to
If
put
we
in
wanted to,
encumbered.
I mean-
I'll check because there's still more information coming and trying to. So I'll see if it's better to
Right.
plug in a 0, or if they think if you've got eligible projects, if you plug in like an interim amount and adjust later. I'll try to get to the bottom of it, but it's no one seems to really have a great
know.
answer on it right now. And if anyone finds out anything, I'm willing to. Pass on the information if they hear from another community. I'll be reaching out to people, I'm sure too. So.
Okay.
But, okay, thank you.
Okay, are we good with that? All right. And update on maintenance of East Highland easement discussion. Again, Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Sure. Madam Mayor, members of the council, we received a letter from Brian Varland. He's an attorney who represents Bill Udseth. The letter is 5 pages long, and it cites numerous cases and other legal authority as to why the city is obligated to maintain Highland Road. As you may recall, the city does have an easement for Highland Road, but has never maintained the road. In October, the council decided that it did not wish to open and maintain Highland Road, and told Mr. Udseth to that effect. We did review the letter that just came in and have determined that it does not obligate the city. There's no legal authority in it that was cited that would require the city to have to maintain the road. We went through every case and every treatise that was cited, and none of those seem to apply. I'm just checking in with the council to see if that's still the direction as to Highland Road before we send a response letter to Mr. Udseth's attorney.
Okay. Council?
Yes.
Yes, what?
Yes, that's still our response.
Yes.
They're going to bring the road up to code and make it so our plows and everything can go on
Right.
it. It's not changing the status.
You have to widen the road.
Yeah.
So you might want to tell him, we don't want to hear this again. We made our determination. If they want to sue the city, let them sue us. I mean, because, we have other, I'll use another example. We have other such easements and I'm thinking, man, if everybody came to us and said, there's one at the end of Painter Road that goes up a steep hill, and it's supposed to eventually connect Painter and West Branch. And there's an easement there. It's been there for I don't know how many years. You can't even tell that it's a road because it's never been improved. What if those people came and said, we want you to improve this now? You know? I mean, for what reason would we do that? I mean, so anyhow. Yes, I agree with Kathleen. I was going to say that, but I thought I'd let you guys.
I'll second that.
So, yeah, and I don't think we want to hear it again. If they want a different change, have them sue us.
And he did not threaten that, but if you want to see the letter, I have a copy.
You can, if you want to send it out to us, that would be fine.
Okay,
But-
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of legalese.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't share it with you
Yeah.
now, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Then that concludes our agenda items for the work session, and we can be adjourned. Or you know what? You know what? We won't be adjourned until 7 because we do have a quotes unquote open house from now until 7 for residents that would like to come and talk to the engineer regarding the project.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll stay in session, if you will, and then we'll adjourn right before our regular meeting. All right. So with that, we will move on to the open house.
I think that